Alcohol Consumption and Stress, a Comparison Between Male and Female, created by Emily Russell, IUC, and Josie Wilmer. Introduction. Within the last decade, the amount of stress that we Americans have faced has increased tremendously. Oftentimes, people have difficulty coping with stress and they find themselves resorting to negative coping mechanisms such as alcohol. Alcohol consumption is an epidemic and increasing problem that continues to rise no matter how much education one receives on the dangers of alcohol. People still resort to using it as a coping mechanism. Due to this, our research group wanted to research how stress affects alcohol consumption for men and women. The stressors that Americans face create anxiety. Many people resort to negative coping mechanisms such as alcohol in hopes of masking physical symptoms of anxiety. Our study will examine males and females' use of alcohol consumption as a mechanism for stress management. This will be carried out with an independent t-test. The independent variable in our study is gender. Our independent variable has two levels, male and female. The dependent variable is alcohol consumption to decrease stress. Does gender increase the likelihood of alcohol consumption when exposed to stress? We hypothesize gender will affect alcohol consumption while exposed to stress due to the discrepancy in the way males and females each cope with stress. Method.
Participants. Our study participants consist of 59.6% of women and 40.4% of men. 20 random participants from each group were selected to calculate the independent t-test. The age variations in the participants ran from 4.8, 6 or older, 35.7, 40 to 6 year older, 7.1 from 26 to 39 years old, and 50.4 range from 21 to 25 year old. For both groups, participants were recruited directly through Facebook and email. Since random sampling techniques were used, the probability of being selected was unknown. In addition, social media algorithms have the potential to block our post from their feed.
All right, so our questionnaire, we created the questionnaire using Google Survey to determine the amount of alcohol consumption per week and general stress levels amongst men and women. The use of alcohol has a related stigma that often causes people to falsely report alcohol consumption. By using a confidentiality statement, participants are more likely to report true answers knowing the results are anonymous. Strategies to prevent false data were that we added a second statement for potential participants to not complete the survey if they do not drink alcohol. And that was in hopes of providing more accurate data. And then we ended up adding a 0 in the options for how much servings of alcohol are consumed per week in order to add another false safe. So here's the start of our questionnaire and the attention statement right here to not complete the survey if they do not drink alcohol. The reference picture used so that people were able to know how many servings they drink, because often people will think one glass of alcohol, such as a vodka and soda, is 1 serving, but most of the time they use 2 shots of vodka in those drinks, so that would really be 2 servings. How many days a week people feel stressed, and then how often they use alcohol to decrease stress. The CDC definition of binge drinking due to stress, and then just our demographic questions.
When conducting our research, we asked 20 men and 20 women to identify their average weekly consumption of alcohol. Then, with that information in mind, they were asked how many days a week they feel stressed. Research was conducted primarily online by asking participants to fill out a survey, which outlined each of our questions regarding alcohol consumption and stress levels, with the implication and disclaimer included. that those who do not consume alcohol should not participate. We asked our participants to rank their answers on number scales and time-related choices such as never, occasionally, etc. We removed participants who had answered 0 to eliminate the false data. And then once our data was collected, we analyzed our data and ran an independent t-test to see the correlation between gender and alcohol consumption.
The results section. So here's our t-test. The CRV above is our calculated value. This means that we must accept the null hypothesis, which means we are accepting there is no correlation between gender and alcohol consumption based on our study results. Many other researchers had no statistical significance for comparing these two. So that is where we are thinking that future research can be updated. So here's our bar graph from the independent t-test. So right here, 3 women reported having 1 drink per week, and that is how you read the table. And then here's some results from our other questions. So the most common was having 5 drinks per week. And we received anonymous feedback stating that some participants drank more than 14 drinks per week. So we should have provided a larger range. And then a little over half the participants were aged 21 to 25. So that could also have a big impact on our data, not having as diverse of a participant pool. And then most participants reported being stressed 5 days per week, and this aligns with the typical work schedule for most Americans, having a 9 to 5. The next most common category is 3 days per week. And then from these stress days, a large number of participants, 45%, reported drinking occasionally to reduce stress levels. Because our data and many other studies have concluded no statistical significance between gender and alcohol consumption, the data from these 2 questions should serve as a guide for future research. The research question should shift from having the focus be on gender to the ability to cope with daily stressors.
Discussion. So our study concluded that on average, men do have a higher weekly alcohol consumption than women. And our survey showed us that on average, men consume 7 drinks a week while women consumed 4.5. This was also shown in another study that men on average do drink more than women. However, it is not a significant amount. Ratberg et al. 2016. When conducting this research, we asked, does gender increase the likelihood of alcohol consumption when exposed to stress? And our hypothesis was that gender will affect the consumption while exposed to stress due to the discrepancy in the ways that males and females each cope with the stress. Similar to what others found, we discovered that there was no significant correlation between our variables. Rose et al. 2020, and we believe that if we used a larger number of participants, that we would have seen a larger statistical significance to make up that difference.
Our study have limitations, so we could have got more out of this study if we focused more on the stress element and kept gender as a demographic. We can also modify the questionnaire if we add a sub-level stress elements such as the cause of stress, socioeconomic, or work, which may give extra analysis for stress in these 2 gender groups. The limitation of our sample size may not fully represent the correlation of alcohol consumption and the stress due to the gender with age difference. The survey population was sampled solely from the social media, and it is possible for the participant to report differently from actual situations due to the sensitivity of the study. For example, the stress and the alcohol consumption. At last, we found female were more likely than men to participate in our study, which give us the selection bias for the analysis.
And then future research regarding this topic should be focused on stress and coping, education techniques, and time management. So for stress and coping, Determining how many people can identify healthy stress management and coping mechanisms should be part of the focus, as well as basing these results on how public health departments could use data to educate the public on how to incorporate healthy coping mechanisms into your life without becoming more stressed. And then education techniques. Currently, I mostly see advertisement on negative impacts of alcohol, and it's really easy to wipe off a guilt trip and move on and not ever implement those into your daily life. So teaching about what we should do rather than what we should not do may make a larger impact. And then time management. This study could address time management of how people drink to cope with daily stressors and those who use other outlets such as yoga, diaphragmatic breathing, and other stress management techniques to show adults who feel like they already don't have enough time in the day, how the negative effects of alcohol actually cause them to lose more time, such as decreased productivity and judgment while you're drinking, as well as hangovers and headaches the next day. So shifting the ideas of research for alcohol could improve how people actually execute it in their daily lives.